Massachusetts is rich with history, and that, coupled with the pandemic, inspired one woman to unearth some of what she calls black gems, stories about black history in the Bay State. Here's a look.
Welcome to Black Gems Unearthed. I'm Jazz, and I'm learning black history in Massachusetts, my home state.
And Salem is actually home to the very first American slave voyage. So in 1636, Marblehead, Massachusetts is where the ship was created, the Desire. The Desire ship would have left somewhere along the Salem shoreline to depart and bring back enslaved Africans.
I must have been asleep in history class because I didn't realize until relatively recently that Fred lived in Massachusetts for a large chunk of his 20s after he fled from slavery. So I'm going to get into his history here in Massachusetts on my YouTube channel. I'm going to be dropping some small gems.
And joining me now is Jazz Dotton. She's the creator of the YouTube series Black Gems Unearthed. What a great idea. It's quite an undertaking. How did you get started? And how did you come up with the name for your series?
Thank you so much, Karen. So this has been a long project. It's just more recently come onto YouTube. I've always loved learning local history, place-based history. And so when I moved back to the Boston area in 2014, I kind of started digging into the Black history of the area, because when I was taking the red line from Cambridge to Boston, I didn't see very many Black people, and I wanted to understand why. So I found a few books that was able to give me some of that information. And with the pandemic, I had more free time, and I decided, okay, there's other people that are like me. I should probably share some of this knowledge.
So,
and the name.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, you go ahead.
I was just going to say the name came about. I was trying to think of another way to share that the information was coming to light rather than highlighting so much of it being hidden. And gems, they're in the earth and they're formed under so much pressure. It's kind of reminds me of our Black history.
Very nice, very apropos. So how do you unearth these Black gems? Where do you find the stories, and how do you confirm them?
Sure. I started with books. There's one on African American heritage of Massachusetts by Rosalind Elders Dolores. I started with that book, and then I've kind of found specific people that I was interested in and found other sources online, and I've worked with I've contacted people at the Boston Public Library, the Massachusetts Historical Commission, to kind of make sure that I'm going to the right locations to share the history.
Why is it important for you to share these stories? And what are some of the important lessons to be learned from our past?
I think it's important to share the stories because I'm just one person. What good does it do for just me to know this? I'm a person that is relatively quiet and I stay to myself. So I think other people need to learn to understand what's going on in society. And I think it's important because the past kind of shapes how we move forward in the present. And I think it also shows us that we need to have an urgency with making change, because if we sit and wait, things won't get done. Now,
you've traveled all over the state to do these videos. You've done hours of research on each video. Where do you find the time?
I just find ways to carve it out. When you take a break, I might end up on the internet on Tufts African American Heritage Trail website, and I kind of start reading, and then I realize 45 minutes have passed. I probably should get back to what I'm supposed to be working on. So I just find little pockets of time.
Well, tell us what maybe one of your favorite Black gems, one of your favorite stories is.
Sure. I think one of my favorites has to be the story about Joseph Lee, because Joseph Lee, he was an entrepreneur in the late 1800s. And I was just so surprised to know that he was the person that created the bread kneading machine and also the bread crumbing machine. And he had hotels and places that people probably go by on a regular basis in Boston, right along Commonwealth Avenue, and also over in the Newton area. It's just this hidden history, like you're walking by it, you're driving by it, and I don't know how many people recognize what he did in the 1800s during a period of Jim Crow and just a lot of segregation and challenges for Black people.
Jazz, when we think about people teaching history, we often maybe have in our mind more of a professorial, professor type in a classroom, but you break that mold. Certainly, as a younger Gen X person that is teaching history, was that important also to you as a way to get the message out to people in your age group?
Definitely, yeah. I'm goofy. I'm very goofy, and I just think that people need to see. I'm goofy but informative. That's my goal, so that people are entertained when they are learning the history. And I just know that I would have loved to have learned from someone like me when I was in college and when I was younger. So I'm hoping to be that person that people would like to learn from.
And certainly sharing that on YouTube, a social platform which did not exist when people like me were in college learning about history. That must make a big difference too in terms of the reach.
Definitely, yeah. I think people can really take it upon themselves to learn information, and hopefully they'll come across my channel on YouTube if they want to learn Black history.
How many followers do you have?
A little bit over 3,000 on YouTube.
That's great. And which video on YouTube do people seem to be responding the most to? Are there a couple that have received lots of views?
Yeah, there's two. There's one on the Prince Hall Masons. That one has been quite popular because I think a lot of people have heard about the Prince Hall Masons, since there are so many of them throughout the country that have paved ways for Black people in various arenas and industries. And then also there's another one on a Puerto Rican man named Pedro Albizu Campos that has a lot of popularity both in the US and with people in Puerto Rico, because there's just not a lot of people talking about his story and how he was influential for helping Puerto Ricans.
I don't think a lot of people realize that Prince Hall, the founder of the Black Masons, a lot of history here in downtown Boston. Isn't his gravestone right in the Granary Burying Ground on Beacon Hill?
Cops Burial Ground, but close enough. I mean, it's in the area that tourists are always walking around and enjoying their cannolis. So now they hopefully will know you can go visit Prince Hall and learn a little bit of Black history too.
That's right. It's everywhere.
Everywhere, yes.
Okay, Jazz Dotton, thank you so much for being here today to talk to us about Black gems. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, up next, the monument commemorating the all-volunteer Black Regiment of the Union Army during the Civil War is back in place on the Boston Common. The historic significance and the connection to Juneteenth.